finish it! Shikaku! Gather your tails! Just like clockwork. Brace yourself. Curse jutsu! Death possession blood! Get him! Let's get this over with here.
The condition has been met. I can finally feel that pain. It feels good.
Before we get started, I just want to allow my guests the opportunity to introduce themselves, basically tell everybody who you are, what you do, and then also tell us your top favorite anime or comic book team.
Hey everybody, I'm Chris Edgerly, a voice actor. You might have heard me on The Simpsons. You might have heard me as Gobber in DreamWorks Dragons, Race to the Edge, DreamWorks Dragons, Riders of Berk, DreamWorks Dragons, Defenders of Berk. The list goes on and on. You might also know me as Hidan in Naruto Shippuden, or you could know me as Pathfinder in Apex Legends. High five, friends. And a whole bunch of other stuff. You hit my IMDb, you'll see the whole thing. And as far as my favorite duos, let's see. Comic book duo, I always loved the X-Men and anyone that they would team up with. They did that from time to time. I loved Spider-Man. They did a Spider-Man and Fantastic Four in a What If issue back in the, it might even been like the late 70s because I'm old. And I remember another one they did a team up was Muhammad Ali and Superman. Oh, that's going way back, late 70s. Yeah, mid-late 70s, did that one. Let's see. And as far as anime, well, I'm a little biased, but I'm going to go with Hidan and Kakuzu.
Okay.
And Naruto Shippuden. And, let's see. What other duos are out there? Well, I don't know. I like Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson in anything. They're awesome.
For sure, yeah. For sure.
So, yeah, that's all I got right now.
Okay. I like all the teams and duos that you chose.
All right.
It's funny that you chose those. For mine, I chose a team sports anime because I've been watching a lot of sports animes a lot recently. I had to choose the Kurosano team from the Haikyuu anime. I don't know if you're for sure, but it's an anime all about volleyball. I just like the whole dynamics about the team. I like Daichi, the leader of the team. He doesn't come off as like the most flashy player, but he really keeps the team in line and keeps them goal focused. I like Shoyo. He's the main character, and man, he really gets you going from being an underdog to being one of the best players in the anime.
Wow, my son Remy, he's also a voice actor. He's going on 14. He loves anime. And I wonder if he knows about that because I have never heard of sports anime. He watches all of it. He watches One Piece. He watches, let's see, Jujutsu Kaisen. It's everything. So I'm going to have to ask him about sports anime now because I'll bet he could go on and on about it. He must know about it.
You say your son's 14 and he does voice acting?
Oh, yeah. He's going on 14. Yeah, he's 13 going on 14. And, yeah, he's been in the union since he was 6. So, yeah, he's actually, I'll talk about my son for a second, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
His name is Remy Edgerly, and he's in the latest Pixar movie, which is out right now. He's in Elio. He is actually one of the leads. He's Glorden, the alien that is Elio's best friend. So
I'm definitely going to have to bring your son on. Woo.
Yeah. So he's great. We're very proud. And his sister Violet, our daughter, a very talented artist herself. She's 11 going on 12. And now she wants to be a Pixar animator because she got to tour the facility while he was recording. He got to meet the animators. Yeah.
Wow, that would be amazing.
Yeah, it was.
So what was his first project, if you mind me asking?
His first project ever. Yeah, well, when they were growing up, I used to bring them into the booth with me at CESD, my agency, and I'd let them talk on the mic and And he was having a really good time with it. So when he was probably 5, I asked the agents, I said, you guys have a youth division. Would you mind if I let him audition for voice acting stuff? And they said, sure. Because it's not the same as on camera. Voice acting is not it's not the same meat grinder that on camera acting can be. On camera, you got to worry about how you look all the time, and that the auditions are kind of a slog. They have to go all over the place. Now they're all self-tape, I guess, but it can feel personal, right? But voice acting is not like that at all. It's mainly fun. Even if you don't book something, you still had fun doing the audition. And they said, sure, no problem. And within 6 months, he was a recurring character on a show called Tots on Disney Junior. And then he did a couple of guest stars here and there on like Camp Summer Island, Craig of the Creek. He did a couple of video games. He was actually in Kingdom Hearts 3 with me. He just did some background voices as like kids in one of the park areas.
Okay.
So yeah, and then
that's pretty dope.
yeah, and then one of these days he was doing scratch for a Pixar movie, and then they told him, we want you as one of the leads for it. And that was when he was 9. And the movie just finally came out this summer, and he's 13. So it was a 4-year record, for that. So
wow, I didn't realize it'd take that long for them to get a movie out.
It doesn't normally. This one, there was a strike. You guys might remember the actor strike that pushed everything back by a good year or so. So yeah, it was originally going to come out in spring of last year, but the strike pushed back everything.
I'm definitely going to check that out.
Yeah, do that, please. It's in theaters still, but it's getting sandwiched in between like live action remakes and sequels, so.
Yeah, I mean, you got Superman out right now. That's a lot of things out.
You got How to Train Your Dragon, the live action remake. You got the Lilo and Stitch live action remake. You got,
Fantastic Four.
All of that. So, yeah. So, I'm rooting for it, but it's probably going to get more of an audience on Disney Plus is what I'm thinking.
Probably, but the fact that he was able to have that opportunity, that's amazing.
I told him, I said, my boy, I've done a lot of big things in my career, but I have never done a Pixar movie, especially not at this level. You have crushed it. Whatever you do from here on out, you'll always have that, so be proud. So yeah.
All right. Okay. Let's go ahead and start talking about you.
All right.
Well, my first question I want to ask you is, I know you probably do a lot of these podcasts, and the main reason a lot of people probably ask you to come on is to talk about Naruto. And for my first question I want to ask you about is, how was it voicing Hidan? And do you feel connected to that character?
I try to connect to every character I play just so that you can give a good performance. It doesn't mean you have to completely inhabit the role. Doesn't mean you have to see the world the way the character does. And thank God, because Hidan is a psychopath.
Man.
But you have to at least get yourself to where you can give a convincing performance. So I'm connected to him in that I can find things about me that are kind of, smart alecky, like he is, and I can get impatient sometimes. I just don't murder anybody. Right. So there's that. But yeah, I'm also, I feel connected to him because thanks to doing the conventions, you have a lot of fans that come up and want to talk about him and sign this or that thing and have a selfie. And so the connection it persists through the fans' reaction to it, because even now they're still watching it. And I must have recorded Hidan, maybe 17 years ago. I mean, I think I might have even done the first session before I met my wife. Right. So it goes way back, and we did it for a few years, and then a video game or two. And I recently recorded some downloadable content for him, which is out now. It's on Naruto Strikers. So for people who miss Hidan being gone, well, you can play him in this game now. So you can do that. It was a fun gig to have because he's a lot of fun to play. Pure villains, and he's a pure villain, are always fun to play. He's not very complicated. He just thinks about it. He's like a shark. He gets up, sharks swim and they eat. And Hidan gets up and he, tries to take souls. That's pretty much You
Yeah.
know?
Then they got that
That's
religious element to it, making it seem like he's being told to do this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that might just be his excuse for all we know. He's just, he just seems to really enjoy what he does. But he is not a complicated guy in that sense. It's like that's pretty much what he's about.
So how does it feel? How did it feel working off with Tom Gibbs, Shukamaru?
Well, I always recorded by myself. Every single episode I've ever done is for anime, that is just me. And I don't know how often that is the case. I think more often than not it is, because anime dubbing is extremely technical, because you've got to make sure that you get the dialogue just right. It's got to match the lip flaps. You've got to sync everything. And when you're recording ensemble, you got somebody else in there with you. There's a back and forth. But it doesn't work that way in anime. They've got to get that line and then the next line, and they've got to reset, and you've got to watch the timing. You just can't go through a whole scene in one take. It just doesn't work that way. So I think it's a testament to the other actors, their skill level, that makes you think that maybe we did all record together, that it feels like a comfortable back and forth. It's also a testament to the director, the writer, the engineers, the editors. They make it work. Yeah, it's a technical exercise, so it is not easy.
Okay. So have you worked with Tom Gibbs outside of Naruto or like at cons or anything?
I don't believe I have. I might have been at the same con as him, but maybe not. I can't say, because I've only just started doing the cons since last year. So I don't do that many. I do a little, maybe 8 or 10 in a year. It's not a lot. I got buddies that, like Adam MacArthur, I've seen him out, and I think he told me he did 33 cons last year.
Woo.
Yeah, I know. So you're always on a plane, and I don't want to travel that much. I want to be with my family as much as I can.
I feel that. I can understand that, especially with everything that's going on with the world. You never know. You know what I mean?
The world's a little bit on fire, and I am married to an immigrant, and she does not love seeing ICE just show up everywhere. Not that I want to inflict my politics on anybody, but things are a little crazy right now, yo.
I can understand that, because if I was in the same situation, I think it'd just be crazy.
Yeah.
Whew.
Yeah, I know.
But for my next question, I want to ask you is,
sure.
Looking at IMDb, I see that you are voicing Rod Flanders on The Simpsons.
Yeah, it's funny because I didn't give that a second thought. And then I've had like voiceover friends like reaching out to me, hey, congratulations, you're Rod Flanders. And I said, I guess I am, and so we're pretty laid back in how we see all these parts get assigned, because like the way I work on The Simpsons is I'm there to fill in whatever part they need for the episode. They have a wonderful core cast that does all the main recurring characters, and I've done dozens of sort of one-off characters over the years. This is my 16th season now on the show. And wow. And I've just, whoever they need, we need guy number 2. Okay, we need the guy in the crowd. All right, we need this doctor. All right, we need this guy here. And there's one episode where I did Mo Sizlak's brother, Marv Sizlak, so I got to be him. There was one episode where I did like the dean of the Yale University, and I did him a couple of times. I did another guy who's like a playthrough streamer who does playthroughs of games. His name's The Detonator. I've done him in 2 or 3 episodes. So then they say, all right, yeah, do Rod for this episode, which is, I think, how it happened. He's kind of up here, and so I think that's what I did. And then, yeah, I think Al Jean, the showrunner at the time, kind of sort of confirmed it on Twitter. I'm not even sure. So yeah, you're unofficially hearing from me that, yeah, I think that I'm Rod Flanders, but don't be surprised if they say, oh yeah, now we have somebody else that's going to do it. My job stays the same regardless. I do whatever they say I need to do. That's what I do. So it's like, yeah, Chris, we want you to be this cat for this episode. Sure thing.
So what's the difference of working on a project like The Simpsons versus working on like anime?
Well, The Simpsons, the classic distinction is anime. The animation's already finished, so you're there to provide vocals for anime that's already done and has already been voiced, just in a different language. And so you listen to the previous performance, the Japanese version, which they're always fantastic. They're always really intense, and you've got to match that, and you got to do your best. You got to do your best English language version of that, knowing what you know about the character. Whereas with The Simpsons, just with all other animation, you have the script, but it's not been animated yet. They don't animate until you provide your performance, and then they animate around that. And obviously there's a rhythm to it, so they want to make sure the script is timed properly so it's not too long. And once you record your vocals, they send them off, and the animation part of it begins. They'll do storyboards. They'll do an animatic, which is a rougher form of animation, but it's a bit beyond storyboards, which are mainly just still frames that they've sketched, and it plots out the scene. And then they get into more and more sophisticated levels of animation. Then they start adding color and depth and everything else. And at some point you may come in and re-record a line or a word here and there, but it's an arduous process for the technical folks. And I would say with The Simpsons, once you record something, once you read the script and record it, it might be 9 months before you see that episode hit the air. Because
So
the
that's
rest
the
of the folks
process.
have to, the rest of the folks have to take it over.
Wow. Okay.
That's
So
with The Simpsons. South Park can crank one out in about 8 or 9 days.
that's what I
Yeah.
heard about the South
Yeah.
Park. That's why they're able to always stay kind of relevant to what's going on in the world.
They are as topical as a cartoon can possibly be, because they just need a few days lead time, and then they're out.
and
know?
and it's because they keep the show as simple as possible. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that is not. It is. Yeah, that is the. It is the simplest version of that animation that they can do. And at this point, fans have totally accepted it. So there's a freedom to that now. There's a
True.
freedom to whatever topic they want to tackle. They don't have to worry about it getting, stale in between now and the time it airs.
And that's amazing. I know they just recently signed a contract for like $1 billion. And the thing
1.5.
what makes me so crazy is the fact it seemed like they're getting paid more money to do less episodes, because I think it was like for like 15 or 20 episodes or something. And I'm like,
I think
what?
it's 50 episodes
50.
over 5 years. Now, I am not an accountant, but I do believe they used to do more than 10 episodes a season.
That's what I'm like.
Yeah. But episodes change now. Episodes for most shows, they don't do like your standard series would usually do 22. And most series don't do 22 episodes anymore. So it's a way of getting budgets under control, in some ways. And also in other ways, I think they have different ways to monetize those episodes, not just broadcast, but in streaming and in pay-per-view and all that. So this is the Skydance Paramount merger that a lot of people in my business are talking about. And all I can say is they wouldn't spend that money if they didn't think they were going to get it back somehow. So those dudes have made a lot of money for their parent company. So pay them up. Pay them.
Man, that's amazing, because I was just recently talking to somebody about which group was better, the South Park boys or Seth MacFarlane, who has better at making adult animations. And I was like, oh, that's kind of hard to argue, because you can say both of them have revolutionized it in some certain way, but I feel like the South Park guys are kind of taking it away.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that's one of those like conversations that'll never get resolved, because everybody's got their favorites. Yeah. Obviously, I'm a Simpsons guy, and
okay.
I think to their credit, I think both South Park and Family Guy say that they owe something to the Simpsons, because they kind of came before
it's like
them.
the OG,
Yeah, it's the OG, and it's not like there had never been primetime animation before the Simpsons, but it hadn't really worked since like the Flintstones in the 60s. So this was not, the Simpsons are not the Flintstones. The Flintstones was still kind of a family show, and the Simpsons is it's about a family, and the show's got real heart, but it's also a show that is always pushing against what is acceptable. And it certainly did that. It took everybody off guard in the beginning. when it came out. And then South Park did that in its own way. And then Family Guy, I think Family Guy and South Park guys are always like at war with each other, as far as which one's better. So yeah,
can go further.
Yeah, exactly. And I think everyone's got an opinion on like which show they like the most, but I think you just like what you like. I can find something in every show that I enjoy.
Well, just like you were talking about your son earlier about him voicing for a movie, you also voiced for a movie. One of my favorite movies as a kid, Happy Feet.
Oh yeah, I remember working on that.
What was that experience like?
That was great because obviously I was one of a whole crew of people that they brought in because there's all these penguins in the movie. And first of all, I had heard about it. This was 2003 when I read for this. Okay. And it was George Miller, the director, who I love because I'm a huge Mad Max fan. George Miller directed Mad Max. He directed The Witches of Eastwick. He directed The Road Warrior. He directed Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. I was and am a big, big fan. And I actually got to meet him for the audition because they said, look, what we're looking for is we have this huge penguin colony and we want to round it out with as many voices as we can. And obviously, we want to get actors who can do multiple voices if possible, because that's, with one person, you can provide several voices and fill things out. That's always been kind of my specialty. So they said, put together a list of accents and different voices and impressions you can do. And I said, sure. So I went out to Warner Brothers and I was just on the lot last week recording some new Apex stuff. And I walked over to where you'd normally park and I see the big water tower, the Warner Brothers water tower, which obviously Animaniacs made famous. And I tell my wife, I said, I was here over 20 years ago auditioning for George Miller. So yeah, I walked near the water tower and then to the right, there's this bank of offices there. And inside one of the offices was George and his assistants. And they just had a simple microphone set up, which brief introduction. They said, okay, all right, just look, when you're ready, just let it rip and let us hear what you can do. So I started into the mic, just delivering all these different voices and accents and things. And George shut his eyes and just sort of looked down at the floor. And he was just intently listening to what I was doing. And then I was finished and he said, all right, thanks very much. And then I found out later, all right, you got it. I said, great. And so it was I believe it was just maybe 2 days, might've just been one day. We went out to studios in Hollywood. I can't remember the name of the studios, but we recorded for a day first with the other actors, and they said, "Okay, we want this. This movie has a soundtrack with a lot of different songs in it that we reference, and a lot of it's very rock and roll too." And so if you want, you're going to call your characters different names. So talk to each other. And if you want, come up with a rock and roll name. And so there was a gal that I got paired off with. We were going to be like a penguin pair. And I said, okay, how would you like to be Roxanne? She said, sure. Because that's my favorite, like one of my favorite Police songs. And she said, you're going to be Shaft. I said, okay. So, because we both love the song Shaft, although she's British. So she called me Shaft. Your name is Shaft. And so somewhere mixed in that movie, there's me saying Roxanne and her saying Shaft. And there was one scene where I got to interact very briefly with Elijah Wood, who plays Mumbles, the lead in the movie. Okay. And this was after Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring, and The Two Towers had both come out, and Return of the King was coming out later in the year. So he was having a real moment. And he was the nicest guy you'd ever want to meet, and says hey to all of us. And he's got the mic next to me, and our penguins are interacting. And it's the scene near the end where he just shows them how to dance. And the one line they kept from what I did was when my penguin says, hey, how's that feet thing go again? And then boom, off he goes. So they kept that. And then there I am in the credits, and I still get little residual checks from it all these years later. And I just thought it was great, first of all, to be in a movie that won an Academy Award. It won Best Animated Feature. Wow. And deservedly so. And then to get to work with one of my favorite directors and an actor I really like, and who's also just seems to be a really cool person. So it was just wonderful. You know, it's one of those bucket list experiences.
Yes, I remember watching the movie as a kid, and I always thought it was funny just watching those the penguins dance. But the whole story of the whole story of the movie is amazing. I couldn't remember if they made a Happy Feet 2 or not.
They did. They did.
Okay.
I didn't work on it, but yeah, they made a second one. I haven't seen it, but I'm sure it's a pretty good time.
Did you see the first one? Did you go to the premiere?
Oh yeah, definitely. I didn't go to the premiere, but I did go see it. I'm pretty sure I saw it if I didn't see it in the theater, then I know I probably bought a copy of it. And at this point, I've seen it a couple of times. We've shown it to our kids, and Dad has to pause it. Here's Dad. That's Dad's voice. You know, the usual. Is Dad bragging on himself again?
Well, my next question I want to ask you is, what got you interested in acting? What was the main thing?
Well, for me, there are people that sort of fall into acting, and then there are people who realize, I think this is all I'm ever really going to be able to do. And I had a lot of different jobs, but I think as a kid, I really enjoyed cracking my brothers up, doing different voices, you know, and I was always a bit of a silly kid to begin with. And then I would do it for my friends, and then I would do it for classmates. And then when I was in college, a buddy of mine said, you ought to consider being a stand-up comedian, because I'm always cracking jokes and trying to find the humor and everything. And yeah, you know, I thought about it. And then when I was a junior in college at University of Georgia, I tried stand-up for the first time, and I really liked it. And it was at just a local club where normally they just had sort of a pizza restaurant, and then in the basement they had sort of a music club, or just a club where you could have live shows. It was very small. And I joined some other comics who just did a showcase night where we would do, like, every 3 or 4 weeks, we'd do a show. Everybody would get up and do 5-10 minutes, whatever they had. And students would be there drinking pitchers of beer. Just, you know, usual rowdy situation. But that's where I really got it in my head that, okay, maybe I could pursue this. And at the same time, I was a drama minor in college. So I had taken a couple of acting classes for non-drama majors, and I enjoyed that. So I realized, okay, I went into college not quite knowing what I was going to do, but I was thinking maybe some kind of writing. And I came out of college knowing I'm definitely going into performing. And so what I did from there was, instead of just going straight to Los Angeles, which some people do, I thought, I don't think I'm ready for a big city like that. So I went with a classmate I had in college. We both moved down to Orlando, because in Orlando, there was some work there. You could work for the theme parks, or you could audition for a lot of different smaller parts on TV shows. And there were definitely comedy clubs. So I thought, this is a good place to get my training wheels off. So I did that in my early to mid 20s, and then right around my late 20s, then after I'd had some experience, I moved out to LA. And probably about 3 years into LA, I said, I really want to buckle down and find a voice acting agent, because I don't have one in LA yet. And it's been 3 years, and I'm on the road half the time being a comic. Half the time I'm in LA trying to get someone to pay attention to me, and it's really hard. But as luck would have it, when I was an actor in Orlando, I booked the part of Spider-Man on the Amazing Adventures of Spider-Man theme park ride at Universal's Islands of Adventure. Yeah, if you go to that theme park and you go on the Spider-Man ride, that's me. So
to this day?
Yeah, to this day. That ride opened in 1999. It's still going. So I stayed in touch with Universal, because their soundtrack department is who directed me in that ride. And then they had me work on another ride or two. And then I was doing a session for them, finishing something up. I think it was on the Men in Black ride, where I did like some of those worm alien characters. And this was 2000. And they said, Chris, do you have a voice acting agent? I said, no. They said, oh, well, we got somebody we can introduce you to. I said, sure. And that was Pat Brady, who is the reason I have a career. She's an agent, and she's retired now, but she still does occasional bookings for people. But I met with her, we clicked, and I put together a demo, and she started submitting me for auditions and things. And so It takes time. I mean, it was 1990, the first time I went on stage and tried stand-up comedy. And it was 2000 when I finally got voice acting representation in Los Angeles and embarked on the career I'm currently on. Like, I did a bunch of things in the interim, and I had some voice acting jobs in Orlando, and I had an agent there. It was a smaller market. And I had a lot of stand-up that I'd done, and I had done some on-camera acting, but voice acting is really where I hit my groove. And it took me until I really kind of hooked up with Pat as my agent for things to take off. So I had to be patient.
Do you still do stand-up?
I haven't done stand-up in a while. I may get on stage one day again. I don't have any immediate plans to, but I got a couple of friends that yeah, I mean, I've got old material, but you know, you don't want to get out there and just do all your old stuff. I mean, even I'm sick of it. So, you know, I'd have to write something new. I might take a couple of older bits that are kind of will always work and, you know, dust them off just to sandwich the new material in
between.
Yeah, exactly. But that's just until I can get some new stuff done. But, you know, I'm not in a big hurry. I enjoy being on stage, but I did it for 10 years on the road. And then I did it for several years just around LA after I got off the road. And you know, probably for another 5-10 years at least, maybe 15 years.
You were kind of doing the amateur circuit?
No, I was doing professional stuff. I mean, I made a living. Yeah, I made a living doing comedy on the road, but I didn't work every single weekend. And, you know, for road comics, if you want to make a real living, you kind of got to work all the time until you really hit and get a following. And I never really got to that point. I got to where I could headline some clubs, and I eventually would have been a headliner probably everywhere, but I don't know how big I would have gotten. I don't know how much of an audience I would have gotten. I would have had to really, this is, I think, good advice for anybody, no matter what they're doing. I would have had to spend more time figuring out my particular voice and persona on stage, because what I was good at was kind of giving the audience stuff they found entertaining. So I could do the voices, and I knew what kind of material they would respond to, but it wasn't as original as it could be. And I thought, you know what? I probably need to be more distinctively myself. In order to do that, I'm going to have to probably take a step backwards or two career-wise while I figure this out. And I didn't want to do that. I had enough momentum where I was always broke. And so I thought, yeah, but if I headline, I make more money, and then I can make my rent payment, and I can save money, and I can pay off my debt. So you got that devil's bargain you hit, and you say, I could take the short route and use my talent to just entertain people and not be all that memorable, but I'll work. Or I could say, look, I'm going to be in this for the long haul, and I want to do something that they're not going to see anybody else do because it's going to be uniquely me. And if I do that, then I could build, you know, an audience that will recognize me, follow me, and that could help me get to the next level. But by the time I really knew that's what I needed to do, I had kind of discovered voice acting and thought, you know what, I'm tired of traveling. I like sleeping in my own bed. I like going to a studio to work. I like being in a union. I like getting residuals. Mm-hmm. So if I do stand up again, it'll be because I want to do it my own way, and I don't care about, you know, just being entertaining. I want to be a little bit more than that.
Okay. See, me personally, I've always been interested in stand-up comedy. I think it's probably one of the hardest forms of entertainment you can do, because it's literally you all by yourself trying to make people laugh. And
yeah. Woo. Have you ever tried it?
I've been funny in groups with people, but I've never really stood in front of people and done it. I've always had a little bit of stage fright in that particular type of situation, but yeah, I've been trying to get more closer to at least doing an open mic or not, just to kind of just see if it's something I really want to do.
I would encourage you to try it at least once, and it depends on how you want to do it. Like, an open mic night is the absolute perfect place to do it. Don't get drunk before you go on stage. It's not going to work. You think, oh, I need this for courage. Yeah, but it's going to ruin your timing. It's going to ruin your awareness. It's going to kill your set. unless you're incredibly lucky, which most people aren't. And if you can help it, if you just want to do it once and just say you did it, fine. Bring all the friends you can find and stack the crowd with them, because you'll get some laughs that way. But if you really want to do it to see if you're funny, then don't tell a soul. Don't tell anybody. Go up in front of complete strangers, and they'll let you know if you're funny. Right? So
True. Because that's the crowd of people that don't know you at all.
They don't know you. They don't care about you personally. They're not there to massage your ego. They're there to laugh, and they're expecting you to be the one to make them do it. And on the one hand, that's your advantage. You get up on stage, they don't want to hate you. They want to laugh. That's what they paid for. So they're rooting for you. But on the other hand, they're not your friends, so they don't want you wasting their time either. But if it's an open mic night, they're already going to keep their expectations modest.
Yeah,
so they'll say, all right, let's give this kid a chance.
Probably about one or two jokes before it's like, okay, get them off.
Yeah. And, there are ways that you can survive it no matter what. Like what comics get really good at over time is bombing. So when a show doesn't go well, they have enough firewalls in their material to say, okay, I can rescue this because I've got enough experience. This isn't going to kill me. I'm going to be fine. I know how to react. I know how to fall back on material that works. But what I discovered is the audience takes all their cues from you. So if you're up there having a good time, even if they're not laughing, they're not going to hate you, because their cue is, well, he seems to be enjoying himself. Maybe I should enjoy this. I'm not really laughing, but okay, I'm smiling now because I like his vibe, right? Mm-hmm. And if you're up there and you're a bundle of nerves and your jokes aren't hitting, then that's it. You're dead. They're going to sense it and they're going to shut down.
But about kind of controlling the moment, basically.
You are the narrator. You frame it the way you want. You control the tone. And if you do jokes and they don't work, and you let the audience know that you don't care that they're not working, then they're going to be fine, because what you're doing is you're releasing the tension. Mm-hmm. Right. So, there's different ways you can do that. When a joke doesn't work, you let them know that, okay, whatever, here comes the next one. Or, geez, you people, I expected more from you folks. I just said, be the disappointed dad. Folks, these jokes are my very best, and so you're just gonna have to sit there and take it. All right. As painful as this is for me, I'm sure it's more painful for you. So at least I got that going for me. Whatever, make light of it.
Okay.
Right? So it's just either that, or if you're really bombing, you look at them and you say, "This is the best I've ever done." And I guarantee you they will start laughing. All right. I guarantee you they will start laughing. I know, because I've done that before.
I can kind of tell. That seems like it already breaks the tension.
Oh, yeah. And that's all it is. Comedy is building up tension and then releasing it. That's what it is. Mm-hmm. So there you go. A couple of inside pointers for you. Now I expect you to go do it.
I'm definitely going to do it. And if I do it, I'm going to have to send you the tape.
Yeah. Or just let me know how it goes, Let me know. Yeah.
For my last question for the interview, I want to ask you is, what emotion do you find hard to portray?
Well, that's a good question. I don't know if I've ever been asked that before. To do anything convincing, you've got to hit just the right wavelength so that somebody doesn't notice your acting, quote unquote. They don't want to think that you're performing. They want to feel like, oh, I'm watching this character go through this for the very first time ever. I'm seeing this scene unfold as though I'm a fly on the wall. So I would say sometimes fear can be hard for me to, I find fear can very easily sound a little bit too much like hysteria. And so if you want somebody it depends on what level they're looking for. Like if I want to, portray somebody who's hysterical, I get to sort of lose it like this. Oh my God. Right. That's hysterical. Okay. Yeah. Is he scared? Yeah, he's probably scared. He's freaking out a little bit. But I don't know, real fear, when you're sort of, you're trying to, you're trying to find the words to say, and look, and maybe a guy's, he's got a gun on you and he might pull the trigger and you're just trying to talk him out of it. But you're also trying to hold it together. I mean, so that's fear, that's anxiety, that's all that, these are nuances, and it's easy to do them. It's easy to go overboard. And I would rather, in voice acting, they usually want a little bit more than is typical, especially compared to on-camera acting, where you have the benefit of your face and your body language to help sell the performance. But in voice acting, they just have your voice, and they're going to fill in the visual themselves. So it's up to them as to how much they're going to do. So I would almost usually prefer to do less, but that works more in on camera. In voice acting, especially if you're doing anime where things are really intense, I would say something like fear. You can get it wrong, and it's not like the person will say, he doesn't seem scared to me. They may not even consciously think it, but just for a minute, the scene's not as effective as it could be.
That's
Yeah, you'll feel like, I don't know, I didn't like that episode as much as I thought I would, and you won't even know if it was the performance or not. But for a minute, you took him out of the story, and you don't ever want to do that.
Because I think what you were saying, because you were like in the beginning of the question, you were like, you want to play something that's genuine, almost feels real. So I feel like trying to play fear is probably hard because can easily be dramatized. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's just like, and then how do you portray the same amount of fear that a person in this situation would be in? But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I can understand that.
Yeah. So, if you're an actor, you better be comfortable with every emotion, and you better make sure that if it's one that is tricky for you, then you make sure that you get enough opportunities to get it right on the day. And usually it's not been a problem. I think you'll find most professional voice actors are usually pretty good at giving it to you within a couple of takes. Right. And then, if they have a director who says, look, we got room to play, we got some extra time, let's try a few more things, that's great. I've always prided myself on giving you what you need quickly, because I know that usually it's a long day and they got more people to bring in. So when it comes to portraying something authentically, a lot of this is just pure practice. And so I imagine I probably had more of not really a problem with it, but I probably found it more challenging earlier in my career to do those big emotions without going over the top. And now I could probably hit that a lot faster just through sheer repetition, just through the experience of doing it over and over again for different projects.
Okay. And before we wrap up, I just want to ask this last Hidan question.
Yeah.
How do you feel about his death scene?
Oh, I get asked that one a lot. I feel like he got what he deserves, because I think that he's very polarizing as a character. I get people coming up to me and they say, "Why'd you kill Asuma?" Like I did it. Well, I didn't do it. Hidan did it.
I just didn't like him.
Yeah, I know. Well, I kind of give that answer. I say he was in his way, and they always, what else are they going to say to that? It's like, that's what the character would do, wouldn't he? Right. And he got what he deserved later. Right. So he got his just desserts in the forest, and he's still there,
That's the crazy thing.
All separated into different pieces, talking smack. So, maybe there's justice in the world. So there's this old acting adage that you should never judge the character you play, because when you judge them, you're going to start portraying them differently. But the character doesn't, they don't know that you're portraying them. You're their voice, and the character, no matter, the other adage is the villain always thinks they're the hero. Everything
True.
they do makes sense to them. They think they're making the world better for maybe just for them. So, you know, in Naruto, in the Naruto world, Hidan feels like he's making the world better because he's providing souls for Jashin, and so this is just another soul. He's doing righteous work, and so I decided that okay, well, if that's how the character feels about it, I need to make sure that I represent that. And obviously, if I stepped outside of that and judged him, I might secretly somehow portray him in a way that makes him palatable to me, but maybe not as effective a representation of who that person really is.
Yes.
So you've got to swallow whatever reservations you have, because the story demands the character feel authentic. And if you're there judging it, you might take the edge off it, or you might make them almost comical because you don't like that they're so evil. And now you've undercut the story, and you're there, all ego aside, you're there to tell a story. And you're not bigger than the story. So yeah, how do I feel about Hidan getting killed in the forest? Well, he didn't get killed, but losing, you know, and he didn't like it.
Wow,
I didn't have a problem with it, but I didn't let it affect my performance. You know, the way I saw it.
I think the scene is a very cool scene, especially for all the scenes you get in Naruto. But for it to be a scene for talking about a different character, Shikamaru, to take out Hidan, basically the person that killed his master, was a very good moment for him, because it was one of those few moments you actually got to see him actually grow. You know what I mean? Right.
And wasn't it, correct me if I'm wrong, because I usually am, but did not the spirit of Asuma sort of help him out on that day, do you think? I mean,
yeah, he kind of appeared, and kind of you get the moment where he pulls out the lighter and lights the imaginary cigarette. You know, it's
right.
It's a very symbolic situation.
Yeah, and I think that's satisfying for people who are really invested in the show, and there are a lot of people invested in that show,
man.
So I think that was something they did to you know, let people know, yeah, I know you didn't like it, but here's a little something.
Yeah,
you know, and sometimes bad guys get what they deserve.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And with that, we wrap up today's interview. I don't know if there was anything else you want to discuss.
No, just keep enjoying the stuff we're putting out there, folks, because without fans, we don't have a job. And so I'm glad of all the people that take the time to walk up to me at a convention and just say hello. Sometimes all they have is a hello and a thank you, and because, you know, it's expensive going to conventions, so
yeah,
it's not easy, and not everybody can come up to your table and spend money, and sometimes they just want to say hello, and I'm happy to do that. So I appreciate that.
And with that, I just want to say that in today's episode, I want to thank my guests for coming on and chatting it up with me. I had a lot of fun and learned so much more about the industry of voice acting, and hopefully you listeners did too. Before we close out, I just want to allow my guest the opportunity to plug himself, basically tell the audience where they can find you, and also just tell us your social media.
Thank you, Raysean, for having me. And as far as my social media goes, I really only do Instagram. I'm looking at it now. What's my handle? Let's see. It's Chris.Edgerly.
Okay.
And that's how you find me on Instagram, Chris.Edgerly. I don't post very often. I only have it because I think conventions like for you to be able to mention that you're going to be there. And so that's why I do it. But otherwise, you can go to chrisedgerly.com and you can find, you know, sort of my website there. It's kind of a hub for stuff I do. I'm working on my third book. I decided to write this series of books called Soldier of Ages. It's a sci-fi history genre. So I thought it would be cool if a soldier could fight in different battles across human history. I thought, all right, I'll build a world where that can happen. And I thought it would work. You know, I had a wise friend tell me you should do that as books. That way you can write whatever you want. So the first two are Soldier of Ages Tettenhall. That's in Vikings versus the Anglo-Saxons in the, I believe it's the 10th century. the AD, and then the second one is the Battle of the Bulge that takes place in World War II in Belgium. And then the third one I'm working on right now is Lexington and Concord. I see you got your Patriots hat there. So I'm sure if you're a Boston, guy, if you're a regional guy, New England, you must know about Lexington and Concord, right? That's where the revolution started. Mm-hmm. So that battle's the third book. So if you guys go to chrisedgerly.com, you can find a link to be able to find Soldier of Ages. You can get them on Amazon, or you can actually read them as ebooks. And third one's going to be out later in the year. So I'm cranking these things out, having a good time doing it.
For sure. That sounds very interesting. I'm going to have to check that out because I've been reading a lot more books during my job shift, which is, I know that kind of sounds wrong, but how my job is set up, we don't really necessarily need to pay attention. We just need to stay up. So they allow us to listen to music, watch movies and stuff like that, as long as we stay up type thing. So I've been reading books and stuff like that. And that whole idea of taking different warriors and putting them in different age periods to fight, that sounds really interesting.
It started as a video game idea because I would be at a video game record and I'd tell the director, hey, would it be cool if you could, fight in any battle in any war ever? And they would say, yeah, Chris, that'd be the most expensive video game ever. All right. We'd have to create every single battle theater. And I thought, yeah, you're right. You got a good point. So my brother and I tried to make it into an RPG. This is like 10 years ago. And it's like, well, we just don't really have the idea ready yet for it. But a friend told me, write it as a book. Right? Then you can fill in all the information you want to fill in. You can make the world as expansive as you want. And it's just you and a computer typing it out. And he was right. It was a lot easier to get the world set up that way. And so I actually found an independent publisher. She's a voice actress. Her name is Anjali Bhamani. She's, you might know her from Overwatch and Apex Legends, and she's done a lot of on camera. She's in Miss Marvel, and she has her own company that publishes books. And so I've worked with her. We got the first two ones out. We're going to get the third one out, and I thought, this would be great to be able to tell a story of one soldier going to these different battles. And I'd love to have other writers eventually come in and say, well, I got an idea for a soldier, and this is this one's a person of color. The writer's a person of color. They can write authentically from that point of view, and they can write about battles that we may not know about, maybe battles that happened across the ages in Africa, or maybe parts of the Middle East, or maybe Latin America, or Asia. Because I thought, I'm a white boy. I have an imagination. I can write about whatever I want to write about. I could write a character who's not just like me. But you know what would be cool is if let a writer who's actually from that background take a shot at it.
For sure.
Why not? I just feel like, if you want to write something, write whatever you want. But if you want to have like different experiences represented, it'd be a good Soldier of Ages would be a good umbrella to let other writers come in and contribute their own character that is fighting in other battles, because there's a lot of them in world history. Look at that timeline. And it's like, man, there's a lot out there. And so I'm just going to write 10 books. That's my plan. And that's 10 battles.
Okay.
And there's hundreds of battles throughout world history that were impactful. And I'd love to see other writers come in and join this and see what they can do with it.
Okay. Well, I'll post all the links to that below. So if you guys want to check out those books, or if you guys want to check out Chris and ask him any questions about Naruto or anything, all the links and stuff will be below. And with that, I just want to say peace.
Yeah.